My name is Aram. I'm a Belmont resident for the past 10 years. I grew up in Lexington. I live on Pine Street. We're here today to ask that the Belmont No Place for Hate Committee and the Human Rights Committee immediately sever ties with the Anti-Defamation League. The ADL has failed to unambiguously acknowledge the Armenian Genocide and continues as a key player in Turkey's morally bankrupt genocide denial campaign. Shamelessly currying favor with the government of Turkey, the ADL is still opposing efforts by the U.S. Congress to affirm the historical record. Specifically, the ADL's opposition to Armenian genocide legislation in Congress is an insult to Armenian Americans and all people of good conscience committed to the cause of human rights, tolerance, and respect for diversity. The August 21st statement on the Armenian Genocide by ADL National Chairman Abraham Foxman is deliberately ambiguous and is shockingly insensitive to Armenian Americans and all victims of genocide and hate crimes. Armenian American and Jewish American local leadership and citizens are outraged by these and subsequently backsliding statements made by Mr. Foxman and the ADL. Just to review a little bit, remember, under pressure from the New England Armenian and Jewish communities and the ADL's own regional board, Mr. Foxman and the National ADL conceded that the quote, consequences of events in Turkey from 1915 to 1923 were, quote, tantamount to genocide, unquote. Unfortunately, or perhaps deliberately, and I would say deliberately, Mr. Foxman sidestepped the legal definition of genocide by avoiding any language that would imply intent on the part of the Turkish government at the time, which is a critical part of the 1948 UN Genocide Treaty, and this was obviously just an apparent attempt to appease Turkey's denialist regime. Mr. Foxman then proceeded to apologize to the Prime Minister of Turkey for having put his government in a, quote, difficult position, expressing his, quote, sorrow over what we have caused for the leadership and people of Turkey. No apology to the Armenian Americans. No apology to the heirs of the victims of the Armenian Genocide. Mr. Foxman has since gone on to repeatedly stress that he shares the Turkish government's opposition to having the U.S. Congress even discuss the Armenian Genocide, much less vote on a resolution that has the support of over 225 members of the House and 31 members of the Senate already. Perceiving its Armenian Genocide denial and subsequent missteps as simply a public relations dilemma, Mr. Foxman has hired the most prominent public relations firm in Boston, Regan Communications, to clean up the ADL's image. They're more concerned about cleaning up the image of the ADL rather than cleaning up the act. They just want to put a good spin on this. The ADL's actions, opposing genocide recognition to appease a foreign government committed to denying this crime against humanity, puts the ADL leadership in direct conflict with the very ideals that the No Place for Hate program aims to foster in our communities. Although No Place for Hate is a positive program with a commendable mission statement, we can't justify support if the program's creator and sponsor, the ADL, does not practice what it preaches and continues to participate in what we still regard as genocide denial. We believe that until there's a radical change in position on this issue at the ADL national leadership level, the ADL as an organization has no moral authority to credibly drive or sponsor any anti-bigotry or any anti-hate program. Now, on Tuesday, August 21st, the town of Arlington and the city of Newton sent a strong message to the ADL's national leadership. In order to continue with the No Place for Hate program, Newton Mayor David Cohen stated that the national ADL has to, quote, do the right thing, recognize the Armenian Genocide, and advocate for its recognition as they would any other genocide, unquote. We urge you to stand with the Armenian American and the Jewish American communities in helping the ADL national leadership come to the right side on this issue. We urge the Belmont No Place for Hate Committee to sever its ties with the ADL until such a time that the organization properly, unambiguously acknowledges the Armenian Genocide and supports congressional affirmation of this crime against humanity. Anything less would jeopardize efforts to protect and uphold the civil rights and dignity of Armenian Americans of Belmont. And to you Armenians who've gathered here today, I'm glad you've come out, but I want you to do one more thing before you go home tonight. I want you to think, the important thing is to talk to your town selectmen. There are 3 town selectmen who ultimately have authority over what's going on today and to decide whether ADL is going to be involved in Belmont and is going to be allowed to continue to go on doing what they're doing in Belmont. They're the ones who make the ultimate decision. It's normal practice as a citizen. I know Armenians like to be peaceful. We don't like to get too caught up in things. We don't like to get too involved in politics. We just want to, live quietly, live a good life. Call up your town selectmen. Let them know how you feel about Armenian genocide denial in our town. And if you think that it might be a little uncomfortable, I want you to remember how uncomfortable it was for your grandparents and your ancestors to get to here. If you don't have time to make a phone call, if you don't, in your broken English, or in your, maybe it's not so easy for you to speak to a stranger, I want you to remember what your grandparents had to do to get here. And I want you to make that phone call and let them know what you feel and what our grandparents deserve. Because as far as I'm concerned, the ADL can do this somewhere else, but not in our town. Not in this town where Armenians make up a good portion here. They can do it somewhere else, but not here. Thank you.